you so much, Professor, for the given opportunity to come and share a word with us, and also giving us the opportunity to learn from you. And you being a historian and a professor, we do believe that there is tons of wisdom that you're carrying for us. So thank you so much. And before we start, I would love for you to just present yourself so that our viewers may have an understanding of who you are, and also your work, behind what you're doing also on your platform, where you're sharing also some of our beautiful African values, and also what it stands for, and what you're also doing behind in promoting us as African people.
All right, thank you very much. I'm Priest Teacher Rabbi LM Dumizulu. I work for Marifado Family Network, whose mission and vision is to promote Ubuntu Ma'ati philosophy, and also to assist every melanin-dominant human being who is called brown, black, Negro, or African to interact with their righteous ancestors and make right those ancestors that did not have their funeral rites. And also at the end of the day, to worship the divinities, and also the one whom we do not know, whom we know as the great one, uNkulunkulu, uMvelingane, who is above and beyond our capacity to understand. So that's our role.
Yes,
as Marifado Family Network.
Yes, wow, that's beautiful. That sounds it's a lot of work that you have in hand.
Yes.
So with it said, we will jump straight into our topic, which is slavery. The reason I picked this topic is because we are so lost as African people. And since the slavery story that had been told by others, not by ourselves, we don't know exactly what had happened. What was it about? Who gave in the slave? When did it start? What is it all about? So reason why the topic of today will just try to make us understand and elaborate some more on this topic. With it said, my first question to you would be, in your own words, is slavery a system or an activity?
We see it as both. And because when you say system is where you have got a product that is made from input and process. So we've got Africans here living independently in their continent with no worries, whether okay, everything is all right. Their systems, religious systems, political systems, culture still intact. And then we've got some people that come in and they take them as raw products and process them through changing their names, dehumanizing them, using them as chattel, as labor. And out of that comes a mentally shackled individual who has no originality to his own systems. So the activities and the processes of enslavement completes a system of input, process, and output. So it's both.
Wow. Thank you so much for clarifying that. And so the next one would be, what does slavery control? From the many areas of a human life, what does it control? Because we have those who state, oh, slavery is chains, we are taken on a road or a trip with chains, or some speak of slavery being in the mind, not being free. Some speaking of slavery because we don't maybe know God. So there is just a lot of things when we're talking about slavery. Yes.
Yeah, I think there are a number of factors that we have to look at. I've looked at it from the political, economic, as well as educational, social, religious. I can say all the facets that makes a human being live in an environment that is conducive for them to express their free will without hindrance. So when you look at our political systems, they are not African. Democracy is not African. The monarchs that we used to have, the kings and so forth, they have been reduced to chiefs, and they have to be put into office by the government that follows a system that has already been put in place by the colonizer and enslaver. The financial system, even if you're a multi-millionaire and a billionaire in Africa today, the money, the fiat system, you don't own anything there. and the digital currency, you don't own anything. The system of making money through thin air is monopolized by the West. That's why there's called dollarization. And maybe BRICS nations will be able to bring another system that is not dollarization.
Yes.
Hospitals, you cannot go to a Sangoma today, and if you die in the home of a Sangoma, the Sangoma might actually go to jail. But if you die when the doctor is making a mistake in the theater, there's no problem there. So we were looking at the social system, the educational system, religion. Today they recognize Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, Hinduism, and others. They say these are official religions. Our African system or religious system is never used to put any president into office. The president will swear an oath over the Quran or over the Bible. So those are systems of slavery. Education, you may be a professor, but whose education? What syllabus did you study? Who gave you that which you study? So you're a professor of in medicine or in metallurgy, but the system of making that metal is not yours. It was started by Africans, yes, but now you are certified and given a license by those that colonized us and enslaved us. So you look at any facet, pick any facet, I'll point to you that it's not ours, which means we are in both mental slavery as well as physical bondage. I'm here overseas. I left my continent, Africa, to work because of economic pressures. It's not like our governments in Africa, they fail, but the system that runs the financing the world is such that if they want labor, they just create a situation where they devalue your currency and push you down until you go and look for work where the money is good, the pound is good, the dollar is good, while the rand is useless, is weak. Yeah. So look at the legal system, the Roman Dutch law. It's not our law. It was brought by the colonizer and enslaver. So you look at all the facilities that you can say, oh, I go to court, the magistrates, high court. You look at the high court judges, they wear wigs, European wigs. They wear garments, European garments. They use the mantle, European stuff. So we are still under slavery. There is no two ways about it. We are still under slavery. The unfortunate aspect of everything today is that it has become overt, is now hidden, and we think we are free, but we are not.
We are not free. That's so true. We are not a free people. We are slaves, as you're saying. We slaves in our mind, slaves in our work, slaves in even the creation of our own ideas. My next one would be, what was the case of slavery in Africa in the past years? Because we seem to we just don't know what was the case in that time when we're talking of slavery. What was the case in that time in Africa?
Yeah, history tells us that slavery has been with us since time immemorial. You look at the words to describe a slave. In Swahili is umutumwa, in Igbo is Igba Ohu, Isgili in Debele, and Ubukobu in Soto. So all these words, Buranda in Chona, Chikaranga, all these words indicate that this system was there. But however, it appears from studies that have been done that the slave would be able to work himself out. And if he had been conquered as a tribe, he would be able to marry, have a life, have a family. And because of the economic system that was there in Africa, there was no issue of labor, payment, pension, and all the other stuff that goes with this kind of civilization that we live in. So the slave would survive even if he's freed and allowed to go. So slavery was there, but it was not chattel. That's the difference. Chattel is what was brought by the Islamic slavery as well as the European slavery. I want to highlight that the Islamic or Arab slavery is almost played down most of the time, but it is the longest. It's still going on today. They still occupy North Africa and they call it Middle East. That's colonization. Those are not their countries. They came there from Turkey and enslaved us. And they always play around and they push towards the Europeans as if the 400 years of European slavery is the only one. The Arabic one is 1,400 years, still going on today.
Wow, that's amazing. That's something that we're not even aware of, because some of us, we think they belong there. The part of Africa on top there is theirs, is they are part of Africa. We don't know that. We don't know that.
They are colonizers. That's why they call it Middle East. Middle East of what? They were given that portion of the continent by the French, the British, as well as the Americans, because they are cousins. The white Arabs and the Europeans are cousins. There is no difference. They are the same people. You look at Saddam Hussein and George Bush. If you want to do it, you can look at any president and compare them. They're the same. The difference is the other one lives in the desert, is adopted our cultures of living in the desert, and therefore they might look different, speak a different language, a different religion, but they're the same people, cousins.
People. Yes, thank you so much for highlighting on that one. So is there any difference between then and now that tells that we are a free people? Are we a free people?
No, we are not. We can only be free if we have our own systems, African systems, financial systems, educational systems, the licensing, our own, if we run our own. And we say we don't want to use the dollar. We want to formulate our own currency. We don't want to use English. We want to formulate our own languages. And the culture, the systems. That's your question. Your first question was very telling. Once we change the systems to be our systems, then we are free, because we can then live according to our systems designed for us, by us, from our historical perspective. Yes,
very true.
Of course, with subsystems in there, that is to tribes, places, regions, and so forth. So today you need a passport to travel from Lesotho to Johannesburg. You need a passport. Which port are you passing? Why do you need a pass in your home, in a country of origin? You need an identity. Why do you need an identity card to identify who? So these are not our systems. We had our own systems, and they were very effective, but we are still enslaved as well as colonized. But as I have said, the slavery now has been changed from open to secret, and it's very effective, because our own people are now managing those slavery systems. I will give an example quickly here. The pastors, the church pastors, the preachers, the prophets, the ministers that preach today, they have taken over from the missionary. The missionary who came into Africa with the colonizer and enslaver at the same time. And before the missionary and the colonizer came to Africa, not even one black person in Africa, in Mzansi, in Zimbabwe, Botswana, Mozambique, knew about Jesus. There was no prophet, there was no Holy Spirit, there was no Mother Mary. But immediately when these people came, we now have prophets, African prophets who have seen Jesus. Suddenly they now prophesy and they have the Holy Spirit. So so it's not our system. We are not yet free.
Yes, it's true, so true. My next one will be, did Africans accept the selling of our own into slavery, or was it imposed? Because what others are saying is we were sold. Some are saying it was imposed by those who were coming to colonize or to take over. What could it have been?
Well, what happened was, initially, in the Muslims, the problem occurred from our perspective, because we are a very nice race of people, forgiving and loving and accommodating. In our ancient times, a stranger was not harmed, was protected and given food. So when the Muslims failed to conquer the 7 tribes that are in the center of Africa, because they are the ones that blocked Southern Africa from being invaded by the Islamic hordes, the Muslims tried to come via the eastern shores, Tanzania, Malawi, and Mozambique. And these are the areas that have a little bit of Islamic religion. And that's where they started to trade. And it was by our own people that had converted to the Islamic religion. We have got an example of a seller of slaves, Tibo Tip. If you look for him, you will find him. He's a black person. He's darker than me and a flat nose than mine. And he was popular for selling slavery across the Congo, right in the Central Africa. And in West Africa, it was some of the chiefs and the kings that hated other people. Instead of killing these people or fighting these people, they were duped by the Europeans and given trinkets, given gold, given this and that, promises, sugar, and all stuff that they thought was nice. And then they sold other people, their own people, into slavery. That was an incentive given by the colonizer and enslaver. I want to say this thing is still happening today in Africa with the Chinese. Our governments give Chinese the green light in anything they want. In Zimbabwe, they are chasing villagers from their villages and giving the Chinese to dig up the graves, dig up the gold. It's happening now. So exactly what is happening today, that our governments think that the Chinese are their friends. But if our governments and our leaders could read the packages principles, how the Chinese operate, they would never allow a single Chinese to settle in Africa because they are there to take the continent. Now, this is what happened in our ancient times and during the time of slavery. Our leaders appear to be blind or dumb, and then they think these are people, good people, they are giving us finance for development, but these people are not just coming to develop your countries, they are building a new China in Africa. Eventually, they will be owning Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban. I can tell you it's not a prophecy, it's a fact. If you study history, if you study the packages principles, the Chinese never enslaved anybody. They just wiped out the people and they took over the lands. They don't own the lands they rule today.
That's
so study and they see, yes.
That's so true. That one, I see it even now. We have many properties, we have many companies, we have even construction companies, we have shoppings, which are all managed by Chinese. So they're really taking over. And it is sad to see that many of our African people, some of us have the fund. Some of us have that education, but we don't want to come together and do the same thing. We can do the same thing in a way to stop them, in a way to maybe try to gain back what belongs to us. So it is sad, but it is our reality.
It is happening,
What can we change or adapt to rebuilding ourselves as a free people toward our economy, cultures, spirituality, and traditions?
The first thing that we need to do is to stop this calls for reparations. We don't need reparations either from the Arabs or from the Europeans. We need the Arabs to vacate and move out of Northeast Africa, go back to Turkey. And we need the Europeans to leave us alone because we didn't attack them. We didn't go to Europe. And of course, they are the ones that came to us. What did we do for them to come and enslave us? So we don't need reparations. We cannot call for that because reparations have a lot of spiritual implications because we are selling the souls of our ancestors and we are selling our lands for money which they have the monopoly to print on a machine. If today they print $100 trillion and give each African, each black person, let's say $10 million, what will you do with that? You bank that $10 million in their banks. You buy their products, you buy their cars, you go to their universities. You will not do anything with that $10 million that you are going to get or that reparation. So instead of reparations, we need as Africans to formulate our own systems that do not depend on the Europeans, financial systems that are purely for us, for Africans. The legal system, the banking system, the laws, the culture, the tradition, the spirituality. We don't need Christianity, we don't need Islam, we don't need Judaism. All these religions are sub-religions that were concocted to enslave our minds, to think that there is one God, but we don't worship one God, we don't know God. We know the gods, the divinities among those. That's where we know, that's what we know, our ancestors. And then the one that created everything, we don't know that one. It cannot be known. If you knew, or if you know the name of the force that created the universe, you will never be in this world. You will be something else. So nobody knows that. So they come and gave us a European and said, this is your God. So number one, no reparations. Let's have our own systems. Number two, let's have our own spiritual systems. And then let's go through a process of reburying all our ancestors that perished in the ocean, in the Atlantic, or who perished in the deserts, taken over across and going to the Islamic countries. And let us also restore our own nations, remove all the borders in Africa, because when they were crafted in Berlin, we were not there, and they don't serve us any purpose. They divide us and make us think narrowly and think I'm a Zimbabwean. And the borders that you are boasting about is the paddock crafted by the British, taken over by the British. So those are the three things that we need to do: unity, and to be united, to work together, to love each other. Our race first and other races after. Let's do that and say, my race first and other races after. So if you are in a queue and the people, you are the only one holding a glass of water and people are dying of thirst, look first along the queue, see a member of your race, give them water first, and let the others die if they can die. That's what they do. This is what they're doing.
Professor, that is so much of a truth. I see that you might have gone through a lot, and it is beautiful. As I said, we will have to learn a lot from you, and I'm learning a lot. And all we need is the courage to do that, because as much as we might have that cup of water, we might be intimidated by the system and still
that's what I'm saying. So that's why I said we don't need the reparations, we need systems. So we have our systems that are favorable, that favors, that say, okay, who is there? Oh, okay, here's my brother, go in. But unfortunately, because of the divisiveness that has been introduced amongst us by the borders and the religion and the economic status and the educational status, we seem to want to align with other races that don't care about us, that will kill us given a chance.
Yes, it's true. It's so true, Professor. So with that said, I will go to my next one, which is, if we are free, what should we do as African people in a way to cultivate the spirit of umoja, which is unity? Because you just said now we should be united. But then what can we cultivate for that unity to be maybe restored among our African nations?
Right, in Africa, we need, the first thing that we need is to remove the borders and reduce all these countries in Africa to states or provinces, and the leaders of these countries to be governors. And we have a federal system and have 5 regions: Southern Africa, led by South Africa, which is a big economy, and East Africa may be led by Tanzania, West Africa may be led by Nigeria, and North Africa may be led by South Sudan. And once we have that, then we have no borders, we have no passports. I live in a country which has got 5 states. I can travel without a passport to any state. No one asks me. And once we do that, we throw away the passport. We select some languages, maybe 3 languages that can be used in various transactions. Maybe in Southern Africa, we can choose any Nguni language and so forth. So linguistically, we don't have to learn Mandarin. We don't have to learn Chinese or any other. We need to learn our own languages. And then restore our unity using what is known as totems. Because izibongo totems cut across the borders put by the Europeans. I am a Mlambo myself, that's my totem, fish, Mhlanga. I've got relatives, KwaZulu Natal. I've got relatives, Eswatini, with my same totem. If I die in Swaziland, the Eswatini, they can bury me and do the rituals straightforward, because Isibongo Sam is the same as those Omlambos in Eswatini or anywhere where they are. So that's the unity we need. And then we need our thinkers to be strategic, to have think tanks that formulate systems that are better than the current technological systems where the standards are set in Switzerland and in Europe. You cannot have an innovation or invention that needs a patent. You have to apply to America or someone to get a patent. I've got a friend who invented a system that can save any aeroplane from falling and change it into a glider. If the engine fails, the system that he has changes the plane into a glider, and it will glide easily like an eagle and then land softly. He wanted to have a patent. He applied, he removed a few components there and applied for the patent in Switzerland. They said it's in America. America is one that gives you a patent number. So that's what I'm saying. We need our own think tanks and we need our own systems. We need our own political leaders to be strong. When they say no, it's a no, but it's not a no and yes, it's a no. When they say no to this, that's straightforward. And we need an educational system that does not teach us that the Queen of England was born this year and so forth and so forth. We need our own educational system that teaches about us.
Professor, yes, I do understand you. Yes, so that brings us actually to our last message of our interview, and that will be what is your message to Africa? What would you like to share with Africans, or what is that, that motivation you can give to us as African, so that we may be able to awaken our potential, to awaken our consciousness, to awaken our identity as African people?
Thank you very much. If you look at the Sphinx in ancient Hamid in ancient Egypt, the Sphinx is this lion body with a human head. It has got a female head, it's an African female head on the Sphinx. That tells us that we were great in ancient times, and we were the greatest civilization in ancient times. You look at Mapungubwe, Great Zimbabwe, go to West Africa, we had a civilization that straddled all over the earth. How did our ancestors do that? How did they achieve that? They worked with amandlos, with divinities. Don't be cheated by Europeans who say they are not aliens. What? In Area 51, they work with aliens. They have got alien partnerships. They work with out of space entities. If you ask Abu Credo Mutwa, he will tell you and explain that to you about Ishitauri and all these. They exist. So then follow Christianity that thinks of Gabriel and spirits that tells you that there's your phone number is such. No. We have to invite our divinities, amandlos, back to work with us and to lead and guide us. Because if you think you can make a better nuclear weapon, it's too late. If you think you can make a good laser gun, it's too late. What we need as ancient people that originated in ancient times is smart thinking, and we can only get that if we work with the divinities and the principles. We know them, our ancestors know them. You know them. If you are black, you know that. You know how to do it. That's why we are called Abantu. Ba means spirit, and Tu means body. We are spirit bodies. We are inhabiting these black bodies. We are spirit people. We are not only physical. There are other physical human beings, yes, but as long as you are like me, dark, with your nose like this and stuff like that, you are a spirit person. So we need smart thinking, and smart thinking transcends physical thinking. That's all I can say. And they have given an example of our ancient greatness, and I say the possibility to achieve that is within us. The potential is within us. The resources in Africa, that's why all continents are jumping in and they want to wrap Africa and take everything. They have been taking things from Africa for the last 300 years. They can't finish that. They want to finish it and they mine everything and send it to China. And our animals, our wildlife, they want to take them out of Africa to other places because we are the richest continent on earth. Don't listen to anybody who tells you otherwise. So let's be smarter, let's think smarter, and let's study other systems and improve on them and adopt them. And let's work together. Let's love each other more than what we have been doing before.